Hi everybody! Now we are going to talk about still the data management but with a different topic, which is the measure of central tendency. So what is the so-called measure of central tendency? Measure of central tendency is sometimes called as the measure of central position. It is a single value that attempts to describe a set of data by identifying the central position within the sets of data. So it means that measures of central tendency are the methods that we can use to determine information regarding average, ranking, and category of any data distribution. So the mean, median, and mode are the three tools in obtaining the measures of central tendency. Okay, that are those three are the mostly used tool for getting the measures of central tendency. And let's talk about first with the mean. The mean is the most widely used measure of central tendency, and this is the arithmetic average of all the scores. So when we say average, you get the um, total number of the data distribution divided by so how many total number of elements that is presented. So this is the formula. The mean can be determined by adding all the scores together and then by dividing by the total number of scores. So this x bar is the notation for the mean and the operational term summation indicating to add all the measures of x. Right? So these x are the raw scores or the presented data itself. And n is the entire number of observations being dealt with. So n is the total number of scores or the total number of elements presented in the distribution. And let's see the example for finding the mean. Say in this example concerning the annual income of 12 workers. So the mean can be found by calculating the average score of the distribution. So it means that since we have 12 workers that has an annual income presented here in our example, so our n will be the 12. Okay, n is equals to 12. And we need to get the summation of x. It means that we need to add all of those presented data here. And as you can see in the distribution, this is already organized from the highest amount to the lowest amount. So we need to get the total amount of from 200,000 pesos to 176,000 pesos. So our total will be 2,281,000 pesos. And now, next step that we need to do is we need to divide this total to 12. So 2,281,000 pesos divided by 12 is equals to 190,083 pesos. So in this example, the mean is an appropriate measure of central tendency. How do I say so, or why? Why this is the appropriate measure of central tendency here? Because the distribution is fairly well balanced. This means that there are no extremely high or extremely low scores in either direction, from the upper part of the distribution and also the lower part of the distribution. So thus the mean value of 190,083 pesos represents the total picture of the distribution of the annual incomes. So this means that in a more or less or appropriate fashion, it describes the entire distribution. Okay? But for some instance, there is what we call the skewed distribution. So when can we say that a distribution is skewed, or how can we say that it is a skewed distribution? There are situations wherein the mean cannot be trusted to provide a measure of central tendency, unlike what we have on the first example, because it portrays an extremely distorted picture of the average value of a distribution of scores. So for instance, let us consider this example of annual incomes, but this time with some adjustment. So let us introduce another score. As you can see at the top here, we have 2,500,000 pesos. So the annual income of an affluent new neighbor who happened to move to this town just recently. So this new neighbor has a frugal high annual income, so extremely far above the others. So from 2,500,000 pesos of the income of this new neighbor, it drops to 200,000 pesos only. Okay. And now let us take a look and compute for this. So since we added another data again, so from 12, our n will become 13. So just go ahead and proceed to the process, get the total or the sum of the presented data to get the summation of x. So when we add all of this, we can get 4,781,000 pesos. And then 4,781,000 pesos divided by 13, which is the total number of workers there. And then the average will be, or the mean will be 367,769 pesos and 23 centavos. So as you may notice, the mean income, which is 367,769 and 23 centavos, this time provides a highly misleading picture of great prosperity for this neighborhood. The distribution was unbalanced. Why? Because of an extreme score of the new affluent neighbor. This is what we called a skewed distribution. Okay, for you to understand more what is the skewed distribution, if you're going to graph the given presented data, then you can see what are those two types of skewed distribution. So here are some graphic illustration of a skewed distribution. We have right skewed and left skewed. So when the tail goes to the right, the curve is positively skewed. When it goes to the left, or when the tail goes to the left, it is negatively skewed. Right, data are skewed right when most of the data are on the left side of the graph, and the long skinny tail extends to the right. And let's take a look. How about data that are skewed left? Data are skewed left when most of the data are on the right side of the graph and the long skinny tail extends to the left. Okay, so that these are the two types of skewed distribution: the negatively and positively skewed distribution. And now let us talk about the second tool that we are using in measures of central tendency. The median is the point that separates the upper half from the lower half of the distribution. So median is the middle score in the list after the scores are arranged in decreasing or increasing order. So don't forget that when you're going to get the median of the given distribution, you need first to arrange the data from highest to lowest or lowest to highest. And then when the number of elements is even, like this, say we have 4 elements or 8 elements, like that, we need to compute for the average of the two nearest data in the middle. So let us take a look here. Say for example, I have here even number of total elements here, since I have 4 number of data already. Right? We have 193,000 pesos, 190,000 pesos, 185,000 pesos, and 180,000 pesos. So this value, I got this from the examples before as well, right? So median is the middle point or the midpoint of any distribution. As you can see, here we have an even number of elements here. So if the distribution is made up of an even number of scores, the median can be found by determining the point that lies halfway between the two middle scores here. And then we need to get those two values nearest to the middle point. That will be 190,000 pesos plus 185,000 pesos. To get the average, so divide it by 2, we can get the value of 187,500 pesos. So this will be our median. Okay, how about when we have this, right? Since we have 13 number of presented data, since as you can see here, this is the example that I used before. This is the annual income of the 13 workers, right? So just arrange, of course we need to arrange scores to form a distribution, means listing them sequentially, either highest to lowest or lowest to highest. So right now we have a distribution that is being arranged from highest amount to the lowest amount, so it's good already. And unlike the mean, the median is not affected by skewed distribution, right? Remember that the median is not affected by the skewed distribution. So whenever the mean cannot provide centrality because of the scrim scores present, the median can be used to provide a more accurate representation. So as you observe, even with the presence of scrim scores at the high end of the distribution, which is here, the 2,500,000 pesos, the value of the median is still undisturbed. It is still 194,000 pesos. Okay. Now let's move forward to the last tool, which is the mode. The mode is another measure of central tendency, and this is the most frequently occurring score in a distribution. In a histogram, the mode is always located beneath the tallest bar. Okay, as I mentioned, this is the simplest measure of central tendency. How do I say so? Because mode, you can just take a look and take a glimpse on the presented distribution, and in one snap you can get what is the mode by just staring on the data. Okay, this is the value that occurs most frequently in the set of data. Okay, so let's use the same example. Finding the mode of a distribution of raw scores. So we have here the presented annual income of the 13 workers. The mode provides an extremely fast way of knowing the centrality of the distribution. So you cannot immediately spot the mode by simply looking at the data and find the dominant constant. Okay? It is the frequently occurring scores. Just take a look, what is the dominant constant? And as you can see here, the dominant constant is 194,000 pesos because it has been presented 3 times or thrice, right? So this is our mode, 194,000 pesos. Okay, so let me summarize. First, we have the mean. So we're just going to get the average. Mean is equals to the summation of x over the total number of scores. Median, you're just going to locate the midpoint or the middle position of the distribution. But of course, first you need to arrange it in decreasing or in increasing order. And median is not being affected by skewed distribution. It is not being disturbed. And the mode, it is the simplest measure of central tendency because in just one snap, just staring on the data, you're just going to get the dominant constant and that's it. All right. So for your own practice, please try to solve this by yourselves. A class of 13 students takes a 20-item quiz on Math 101. Their scores were as follows: 11, 11, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, 9, 6, 4, 1, 2, 2. Right? So you need to find the mean, find the median, and find the mode. As well as don't forget, prepare for the quiz. Thank you so much.